us to jointly host the event. Bullies never can take criticism. And it has been found that radioactively contaminated wild boars, pigs, sheep, and deer are still unfit to eat in Japan, Russia, Europe, Norway, the UK, and more because of Chernobyl, Fukushima, and 3 Mile Island. This is a rather extensive article, and we will have a link to it up on the website, nuclearhotseat.com, under this episode, number 248. Back here to the U.S., where more than a dozen airmen who provide security for a nuclear missile base in Wyoming are under investigation for illegal drug activity. This according to Defense Department officials. The Air Force is investigating 14 junior enlisted airmen from the 90th Security Forces Group at the F.E. Warren Air Base outside Cheyenne, Wyoming. About 1/3 of the Minuteman III force of 450 intercontinental ballistic missiles are operated by the 90th Missile Wing. That means that 150 nuclear warhead-loaded missiles were under the influence of airmen who were under the influence of what is allegedly cocaine. Last year, 3 launch officers pleaded guilty to using ecstasy after an investigation into illegal drug possession uncovered roughly 100 officers involved in a cheating scandal. Can you think of any other reasons why we should take that $1 trillion and instead of upgrading our nuclear arsenal and switching over to genuine renewables? Because, let's face it, even on ecstasy, no terrorist ever attacked a solar panel. Now for the nuclear reactor duck and cover report. Last Thursday, March 17, at Grand Gulf Nuclear Reactor Station in Mississippi, a lightning strike to an off-site power source caused a loss of power in the service shutdown cooling system and associated system actuations. That's a lot of NRC gobbledygook to say it got hit by lightning, it shorted out the power, and the cooling systems shut down. On Friday, March 18, at Watts Bar in Tennessee, the loss of emergency and auxiliary gas treatment systems, 2 paragraphs of NRC gobbledygook later, we learned that this was a condition that could have prevented the fulfillment of a safety function. And the Union of Concerned Scientists' annual review of U.S. nuclear power plant near misses finds more than 60% of safety violations occurred at Entergy plants. There were 10 near-miss accidents at U.S. nuclear reactors last year, and more than 60% of the violations occurred at 3 facilities owned by Entergy Corporation. A near-miss incident is an event or condition that could increase the chance of reactor core damage by a factor of 10 or more. The Union of Concerned Scientists initiated its annual review in 2010, and since that time there have been 91 near misses at nuclear power plants, and that's only through the end of 2015. Last year's near misses occurred at Calvert Cliffs in Maryland, Duane Arnold in Iowa, Fort Calhoun in Nebraska, Indian Point in New York, North Anna in Virginia, Pilgrim in Massachusetts, River Bend in Louisiana, and Virgil C. Summer in South Carolina. Entergy owns Indian Point, Pilgrim, and River Bend, which also experienced a near miss in 2014. And that's this week's Duck and Cover Report. Speaking of Indian Point, at midnight on December 12 of last year, the final license for Indian Point Energy Center's reactors expired. To mark the event, about 50 people walked up the road to the entrance of the nuclear power plant in Buchanan, New York. As they stretched yellow caution tape to block workers' access, they were told to disperse. 11 of them did not and were arrested. Last Thursday, March 17, represented by attorney Marty Stolar, the 11 had their hearing in court. They all, on advice of attorney, pled guilty, and the judge let them off with time served. but no fine. They told the media, yes, we are guilty, and we might have to do it again. According to a Gallup poll, for the first time since they asked the question in 1994, the majority of Americans say that they oppose nuclear energy. 54% opposing it is up significantly from 43% just 1 year ago, while the 44% who favor using nuclear energy is down from 51%. Now let's get to work on that 44% that has been brainwashed by the nuclear industry. So where do the candidates for President of the United States stand on nuclear issues? Now the truth is being told. Bernie Sanders has made climate change a central pillar of his campaign for the Democratic nomination for president, and he is adamant that nuclear power has no place in his vision of the nation's cleaner future. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, believes, quote, nuclear energy has an important role to play in our clean energy future. This according to Jake Sullivan, Clinton's policy director. Sanders argues for a moratorium on nuclear power plant license renewals in the United States. Clinton was pro-nuclear power in 2007, changed her mind in the midst of that campaign in 2008, and stated that she was against it. Then, as of February of 2016, her campaign platform states again that she is once more in favor of it. And when Republican candidate Donald Trump was asked, what's your priority among our nuclear triad, meaning the B-52s, the missiles, and submarines, all of which are aging out, Trump was his usual incoherent mess. We'll have a link up to that article because I can't do it justice in the time I've got. What do you do with an unfinished, abandoned nuclear power plant? The Tennessee Valley Authority is taking suggestions on what to do with its Bellefonte nuclear plant in Alabama, which the TVA quit building in 1988 but has kept on mothballs ever since. One suggestion is to turn Bellefonte into an amusement park, similar to the 135-acre Wunderland Kalkar, built on the site of a former nuclear power plant north of Dusseldorf, Germany. Thrill seekers who would visit Bellefonte would be safe from radiation because the plant never went into production. The cooling towers could be converted into giant climbing walls. The Southern Alliance for Clean Energy suggested that perhaps Bellefonte could be used as a film production set. The plant, after all, is located in Hollywood, even if it is only the 1,000-resident Hollywood, Alabama. They could convert the abandoned reactor buildings into condos for folks who want that post-apocalyptic look, or use the spent fuel pond in the reactor for a swimming pool that only has a deep end. But the best suggestion of all came from Lou Zeller, executive director for the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League. He said, I think we should use the land and transmission facilities there for a giant solar farm. We'll let you know what they decide. Over to Japan, where on Monday, March 21st, 2 British ships arrived in the eastern part of that country to transport a shipment of plutonium, enough to make dozens of atomic bombs, back to the United States for storage under a bilateral agreement. So Japan seems to be taking a lead from Germany in how to get rid of their nuclear materials. In Germany's case, it was nuclear waste that we agreed to take back way back in the Eisenhower Atoms for Peace era, and now we seem to be stuck with it unless there were enough comments and complaints to the NRC while that subject was open for debate. But when you look at the fact that both Germany and Japan are shipping nuclear materials back to the U.S., it makes one wonder if perhaps revenge is a dish best served cold, and perhaps World War II isn't quite as over as we might have hoped. The U.S. is starting to look like the nuclear waste dump of the Northern Hemisphere. We're going to be posting some links up on the website. One about a TV program from the Yomiuri, which looks at the issue of health hazards of radioactivity. It cites 3 separate nuclear site workers who had been at Fukushima Daiichi and who had severe illnesses based upon doses of radiation they had been exposed to that were supposedly in the safe range. The program ends with a quote about what was done to the workers. It's just plain murder. And another link will be to an article, Gone Fishing, Fukushima at 5 Years by EnviroReporter.com, which follows Japanese fishermen off the coast of Fukushima, despite the fact that the waters were hot with radiation. But as the men said, the fish were plentiful, and if they didn't pass RAD testing, they could be sold overseas. That would be us. And you probably thought I forgot, but now...
Nuclear hot seat, nuclear hot seat, nuclear hot seat, numbnuts of the week.
You know, nuclear is such a pain in the gazorchus that sometimes a body just wants to go out and drink too much. Just, if you decide to do so, drink responsibility and do not drink Fuko wine, aka recovery wine. It's a sparkling wine, it's a cider. It's a big mistake because it is made entirely from fruit grown across Fukushima Prefecture. You see, it is intended not just to be an alcoholic beverage. It is intended to send a clear message to consumers that the prefecture's produce is safe and dependable. Even if it's not, but we'll never know for sure because nobody's testing the stuff. So it's not just wine, it's propaganda. In case you doubt that, note that this is a project that joined together the Koriyama municipal government, Koriyama being one of the towns in Fukushima Prefecture, and the Mitsubishi Corporation Disaster Relief Foundation. That's right, Mitsubishi, makers of flawed steam generators, the ones that ultimately took down the San Onofre nuclear reactor because they couldn't be trusted to be started. For now, the number of bottles produced is so small that the wine will only be available in Fukushima Prefecture. However, the winery is eyeing future shipments to the Tokyo area and beyond. Mitsubishi Corporation Disaster Relief Foundation Vice Chairman Yasuhito Hirota said, "I'd like to see this winery spread its wings and find success worldwide." That's right. It is a Japanese philosophy that when it comes to Fukushima, they want to share the pain and spread it around. So they've got bottles of wine where we know there's wine in them, but what else might there be? I guess they're just not looking. And that's why, to be honest, anybody who drinks this stuff is this week's
Nuclear hot seat, numbnuts of the week.
I mean, if you're going to drink something disgusting, there's always Manischewitz Heavy Malaga. And finally, for my favorite quote of the week, we turn to Jay Truman, founder of the Downwinders organization, who was featured in the documentary Downwinders, which was recently shown at the Latter-day Saints Film Festival. Thank you, Mormons. In the film, Truman shows a map of Enterprise, a town in southwestern Utah about 40 miles north of St. George, which was directly downwind from the nuclear testing sites. On the map, every X marks a home where someone died of cancer, and almost every home in the tiny town, which was in the direct path of the fallout from the bomb tests, has an X. Truman said the ABCs for Enterprise are: A is for atomic, B is for bomb, C is for cancer, and D is for dead. We'll have this week's featured interviews in just a moment, but first, Nuclear Hot Seat is listener-supported and relies on your donations to help us keep getting the word out about nuclear in a way that you're not likely to encounter on mainstream media. Right now, in addition to the monthly expenses that we always run into here at Nuclear Hot Seat, I am